Okay, as promised the other day when we started to learn about the law of sines, which I think was on maybe Monday or something, there is in fact also the law of cosines. Okay, the law of cosines is quite a bit more complicated than the law of sines. The law of sines is pretty much a simple proportion. The law of cosines has all kinds of crazy things running around in there which you have to figure out. And so the main thing that you need to remember, two main things. One is that this frees us again of the shackles of having to use only right triangles. This holds true for any kind of triangle that you want. And then the other thing that you have to remember that holds true, Shad, there's a packing slip here on the desk. I don't know if you need that too. Okay. Is that the way these are set up is very important. The side has to be across from the angle. So side A is across from angle A, side B is across from angle B, and side C is across from angle C. And the reason why this is more helpful perhaps than the law of sines is because now you can do it when you don't know the angle and the side opposite of it. All right? So I'm going to do two examples. One is where you find the missing side, and one is where you find the missing angle. Okay? Sound like a good time?
Wait, that's exactly like sine though. Isn't it?
Well, the law of sines, I'm sure you remember, was the sine of A over A equals the sine of B over B equals the sine of C over C. So
we're finding the same things though.
Okay, so that's a great question. So you're saying, what's the big deal? Why can't we just use that other easy one? And that is a great question. So let me show you why.
Can I look at someone's schedule really quick?
Nope.
Right out when you start explaining?
I'm right in the middle of explaining right now. Talk, talk, talk. Talk, talk, talk. Don't interrupt me. Talk, talk, talk. Okay, here's the deal, Jonathan. Here's why this one is handy. Okay? Let's say that we wanted to find out what side R was in this triangle. Okay? And all we knew was the law of sines. What would you write for your proportion using the law of sines to find the measure of side R right here? Okay, but the sign needs to be on top, right? So I would go sine of
36.
Okay, sine of 36. That's a good place to start. Over the side that's opposite it, right? R, which is what we're trying to find, equals sine of
C.
Okay, that works for me. Sine of C over the side opposite angle C, which is 45. Okay? What's the problem with that equation? There's two variables in there, R and angle C. And so in this case right here, we can't use the law of sines to figure that out. Okay? And so that's when the law of cosines comes into play. So when you have a situation like this, where you know two of the sides and the angle in between them, that's when you're going to want to use the law of cosines. If you have a choice, I would say use the law of sines any chance that you get because it's way easier. Okay? But in this case, I don't have a choice, so I have to go with the law of cosines. Now, it looks scary, but it's not that bad. So I'm going to try and find R, right? So R is like the C in this equation here. So I'm replacing the C, I'm going to call that R instead, and instead of using A, I'm going to use the length of this side right here, and instead of using B, I'm going to use the length of that side right there. So to start with, it's just like the Pythagorean theorem, so it's R squared equals 45 squared plus 52 squared. The problem is it's not a right triangle, so I can't use the Pythagorean theorem, so I have to adjust it a little bit. And when you get into math analysis, we'll talk a little bit more about why this actually works. But for right now, it's just an introduction to the idea. So I'm going to go R squared equals 45 squared plus 52 squared minus 2 times what? 45, one of the sides, times 52, the other side, and then times the cosine of the angle. Okay? So it's this side squared plus this side squared minus 2 times those two sides. So you use each one of these things twice. Okay? It gets squared and then it gets subtracted, so you just have to plug it in, and then times the cosine of whatever the angle is. And then to get the very last final answer, I'll have to square root it. All right? Now, this looks really scary, right?
Yeah.
You can enter that in exactly like that on a calculator, and you'll be fine. Okay? So let me get my big calculator going here, and I'll show you. So it looks a little frightening, but it's not. If you have any kind of a scientific calculator at all. Go sit small or something so everybody that watches this video doesn't hear your conversation. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go, what was the first side, 45? I'm going to go just simply 45 squared plus, the other one was 52 squared minus 2 times 45 times 52 times the cosine of the angle, which was 36. And as long as I am in degrees, which hopefully all of you are, then I should get an answer that looks like that. Okay? So, like I said, it looks scary, but it really isn't. Okay? Yes? Right, and then since that's what r squared equals, so r squared equals 942.8. Then to figure out what r is, yes, I have to square root both sides. So the square root of 942.8 is what? 30.705056604. Okay, and you have to write it out to that many decimals. No, you don't. No, you don't. The book just goes with about 31. Okay? But Hannah likes to do everything, perfect. Yeah, which is a good way to go. Okay? So is that really that bad?
Yeah.
It looks complicated, but it's not really. I mean, you just have to type this junk into the calculator. Okay? When things get bad is when you need to find the angle. Okay? So I'm going to give you a different formula for that. Nope, I couldn't just be like, here's an easy day. That would be silly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this equation now and solve it for the cosine of c. Okay? Yes? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Is that what you're going to say, Jenna?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So to solve this for the cosine of c, I need to subtract the a squared and the b squared from both sides first. So they cancel from over there. What's c squared minus a squared minus b squared?
What?
What's c squared minus a squared minus b squared? Okay. What's c squared minus a squared minus b squared? C squared minus a squared minus b squared. You guys are scared of okay? Just checking your algebra. Okay, so that got rid of the squares, right? Now, how do I get rid of the negative 2ab?
Is that a squared add 2ab?
Yes, it is. What is the negative 2ab doing to the cosine of c? We're trying to get the cosine of c all by itself. What? Right, divide both sides by negative 2ab. And so those cancel, and so this gives us a different formula that we can use to find the angle. And that is that the cosine of the angle is c squared minus a squared minus b squared divided by negative 2ab. Okay? And remember, since this is a fraction, you have to do all the tough stuff on top first, and then divide it by all the stuff on the bottom. All right.
That's square root, though.
No, you don't have to square root it, but what do I have to do with this? Because this is going to tell me what the cosine of C is, and I want to know what C actually is. Right, then I have to do inverse cosine to figure out what the angle is. So let me do an example of that. Just wait for Data to get her.
I got you.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's say we have this triangle right here.
So I want to know why you said that.
Okay, so this one we want to find the measure of angle Q. So this time we want to find the measure of angle Q. So you ready? Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say the cosine of Q is going to equal, what side do I start with? It matters.
250.
Yeah, why?
It's opposite.
No, because it's opposite Q. I was excited there. I thought you actually had this figured out. Yeah, good job. Because it's opposite the angle Q. So I'm going to start with 250 squared minus 175 squared minus 225 squared. And the order of those last two wouldn't matter. I subtracted 225 squared first or subtracted 175 squared first. I'm going to get the same thing either way. Okay? Divided by -2 times, I'm not using this one, I'll use that one once because that's my C. So it's going to be divided by -2 times 175 times 225. Okay? So it's the angle, or I'm sorry, it's the side opposite the angle that you're looking for, squared, minus the other two sides squared, divided by -2 times those two things. And I don't expect you to memorize this, so write it down in your notes. Okay? It's a little bit confusing. All right, so it's going to have to tell me those numbers again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 250 squared minus 175 squared minus 225 squared. Okay? And I'm going to figure out what that is first. Okay? That's okay. I'm good with that. And then I'm going to divide it by, and I have to be careful with this because I want to divide it by the, hey. Students, you're missing out on very important stuff.
Sorry.
Okay? When I divide this, I have to divide it in parentheses because I want to divide by the whole thing. So I'm going to take that answer and divide it by -2 times 175 times 220, times 225.
I had to make a negative.
With the negative button? There should be like a plus minus button on your calculator. Okay, so when I hit enter, that gives me a decimal answer. Is that my answer? No, because I'm trying to find the angle, right? So what do I do to find that angle? Yeah, I do second cosine of that answer, and I come up with an angle of about 76 degrees. Okay? So that, or what's going to happen?
I'm going to blow up the classroom.
Okay. Got your little threat there on tape here. We're going to get you suspended.
Bomb threat.
Yep, we'll know who did it.
Okay, can I go down this road?
Let's go tell the assignment first. Am I bugging you yet?
Me? No.
Okay. Good. Yeah, that's it. I didn't want Jonathan to blow anybody up, so you had to make it a short assignment.
That is